Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Cooking with Grandma. Today we are going to be making cookies. My first recipe is called cream cheese cookies. I've made this once. It came out pretty good, so I'm going to make it again. So the first thing I did was took a package of cream cheese, 4 ounces, and I just cut it up and softened it a little in the microwave because I buy the cream cheese in the brick. And it's a little hard, so you want to make it a little bit softer for this recipe. So you're going to mix the butter, the cream cheese, and the sugar. So we need a pound of butter, which is 1 cup. So we're going to take 1 cup measuring cup here, 1 cup of butter. That in the mixing bowl. Go, 1 cup of butter, to 4 ounces of cream cheese, what I already put in there and melt and softened, and 1 cup of sugar. These are a nice cookie. They're a soft cookie, but they're sweet, and that's yummy. So now you want to stir all this together until it's mixed in nice and smooth. The butter and the cream cheese mixes in nice with the sugar. You can use an electric mixer, but I find using a wooden spoon does just a nice job. Look how quick and easy this is. Just mix it up until it's nice and creamy. See? Y'all see that? There we go. Let's show you. There we go. Nice, creamy, butter, sugary, cheesy batter. Now to this, we're going to beat it until it's sweet. Now we're going to add an egg. And we're going to beat that in so it's nice and creamy. Mix it all in. Ready? Stir in the egg. And it also says to stir in the vanilla, which you want 1 teaspoon of. So again, remember what I said before, the lid is exactly 1 teaspoon of vanilla. There you go. Pour it in. You can measure it in a spoon if you like. It's just, the lid equals a teaspoon, so it's just as easy. You mix all that in until you have cheesy, buttery, sugary, vanilla, all mixed in. There you go. Nice and mixed in. So to this, we're going to scrape down the sides of the bowl so everything's in the bowl. Everything's in the bottom. A couple of lumps of cream cheese that didn't quite make it mixed in. Stir that in again. So now what we're going to do, now we're going to add the rest of the ingredients in this recipe. The rest of the ingredients are 2.5 cups of flour. I'll measure out 2 cups here in my big measuring cup. And also, like I explained to you before, this glass measuring cup has got the lip on it, so that means it's really for liquids. So when you measure dry things in this, you want to add just a titch more, about 1/4 of a cup more. So there's our 2 cups of flour. We need 2.5, so there's 2, and I'm going to take my measuring cup and 1/2 and put that in. And then 3/4 teaspoon of salt. So get the measuring spoon. 1 teaspoon. So we need 3/4 of a teaspoon. So we don't want to fill this up all the way. Alrighty, so now we're back. Sorry for the interruption. So we're going to measure in 3/4 teaspoon of salt. I have a 1 teaspoon measuring spoon here. Just going to put not quite a spoonful, 3/4. And we're going to stir that all in. Give it a good mix. You got to scrape the sides of the bowl down as you go. And stir and mix. It's a pretty simple recipe. Not very many ingredients. I like recipes that don't take a lot of ingredients, that are easy to make, and that are budget friendly. I don't want to go out and spend a lot of money on ingredients, that I may or may not use again. Some recipes call for ingredients that you have her in your pantry, which is great, but if you don't, and if you have to go out and unless you make that recipe again, you're kind of stuck with it. And if you don't like the way the recipe turns out, then you're really stuck with it. So there, now that is all mixed in, nice and smooth. You see there? Let's see. There we go. See how nice and creamy and smooth that dough is? Okay, so what we do with this is we have unbuttered. You don't butter the cookie sheets. They don't stick. And besides, if you have non-stick pans, then you really don't need to worry about it. So you take and put a large teaspoon of dough on the unbuttered sheet. Bake 14 to 16 minutes or until the edges begin to brown, and then let them cool. So here we go. Now I'm going to turn my camera around this way. So put them on the cookie sheets here. Alright. And it's really couldn't be any easier. They're called drop cookies because you drop them by teaspoonfuls. I like easy peasy things. And if you notice when I made my last video and I put easy peasy lasagna, the Y didn't come out. So it looks like I put easy peas. It doesn't have peas in it. It's not easy peas lasagna. It's easy peasy. Now these cookies are also easy peasy. So really there was 7 ingredients. You had butter, cream cheese, sugar, egg, vanilla, flour, and salt. That is all that went into these cookies. And they bake up very nicely. I'm going to put one batch in the oven, and while I'm getting ready for my second baking treat this today, we'll bake off one batch so you can see what they look like when they come out. They're a nice soft cookie. They're good to have with a nice big tall glass of milk, cup of tea, cup of hot chocolate, take in your lunch, and because they're peanut free, you can send them to the school lunches if the kids want them for a snack, for a recess, or after their lunch. So there they are. That's how quick and easy that was. A dozen cookies made just like that. So I'm going to put these in the oven. I'm going to set my oven timer for, it says on my recipe, 14 to 16 minutes. I always do it about a minute or so less than what it calls for, because I have an energy saver oven and I don't want them to burn. It's always easier to add another minute instead of, you can't take it away. If you burn the cookies, you burn the cookies. If you add a minute to it, or don't bake it enough, then that's okay. You can add more time. Alright, so while they're baking, the next thing I'm going to make for you today is, let's see, should I do the brownies? Let's do the brownies. They're called 3 Bear Brownies. This is a recipe my mom gave me when I was visiting this year. Turn my backwards. There we go. Get back to it here. Now, I have not made these yet, so we're all going to learn together on this one. So the first thing you do is preheat your oven, which it is. Now you're going to grease and flour a 9 by 13 by 2 inch pan. That is your big baking pan if you were baking a cake. That would be this pan. Right there. I'll see how, there you go, 9 by 13 by 2 inches. So we're going to butter that. And get the paper towels. And you take a little butter and you just go around the sides up and make sure you get it right in the corners, because that's where cakes and cookies like to stick. Make sure it's all covered. It doesn't take much, just a little bit on the paper towel, and you mix it all in. There you go. There. Buttered greased pan. We'll set that aside until we're ready for it. Okay. Roll. Alright, now, preheat, grease and flour. Oh, see, I missed a step. So what you do for this is you take your flour and you put it in the pan and you just tap it until all the sides are covered, including the edges. Go round and round like this. Let's see if that's showing up, I hope so. There we go, just tap it and tap it and tap it so you get it nice and coated. This will help to ensure nothing sticks. There we go, greased and floured. Alright, now we'll get on with the brownies. So we have to melt some butter and chocolate in a pan and then let it cool. So I'm going to get a little saucepan out here. Okay. Now it calls for 4 squares of unsweetened chocolate. I don't have the squares, so a trick for you all to learn is that you can take, to make the equivalent of 4 squares, you take baking cocoa and you take 12 tablespoons of baking cocoa. I'm going to do that. 1, 2, 3. This is an easy way to mimic your chocolate. You can buy unsweetened bars of chocolate in your baking section. I just don't happen to have it in hand, and because I know the substitute is so easy, I just buy cocoa. So you mix that, and you mix 4 tablespoons of butter. I have to get another container of butter out of my fridge. There's 1. And 2. In a second, I'm going to grab another container of butter. And when I say butter, I mean margarine. I don't buy butter. It's very expensive. You can't do budget-friendly recipes and spend $6 for a pound of butter. I don't find any difference in taste whatsoever when you're baking. There. So we have 4 tablespoons of butter to our 12 tablespoons of margarine, and then just a sprinkle of salt, half a teaspoon. So we mix that in. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this, and when we mix it all in, it's going to look like the bar of sweet chocolate. So what this recipe calls for is to melt the butter in the chocolate in a pan. So now there's our 4 squares of melted chocolate. It might be a little bit difficult to see it, it's a little dark. There we go. It's not all the way mixed up, but it's getting there. It does take a little effort, but again, it's not that bad. And if you don't have one thing on hand, you can substitute for another. That's what's the good thing about baking, is you can not switch things around, but you can make it work. So this is what you do to make it a bar of chocolate. And this is unsweetened because it's baker's cocoa, so it is unsweetened. When you add the other ingredients, and there you have it, a big blob of chocolate. So to that we're going to add 1/2 of a cup of butter. Get my measuring spoon here. My wooden spoon. Forgot to get an extra one out, and we got the one for the cream cheese cookies, so we're going to get an extra one. And we want 1/2 cup of butter. Turn my burner on. So we're going to melt these together. And while we're doing a little bit of extra, our other ingredients, we'll melt this and let it cool. So I'm going to put this on the pan, on the stove. Stir it up a bit. And just let that sit there for a second. It won't take long to melt. Clean up my mess. Kind of made a sloppy mess here. Just wipe it up and continue. So while that's melting, okay, so you melt the butter and chocolate in the pan, let it cool. Beat eggs with an egg beater or a whisk until lemon colored. So it calls for 4 eggs. We're going to put our 4 eggs in here. And of course I got a shell, so you just take that out. You really should break your eggs in a little bowl before you put them in your mixing bowl, just for that reason. But I usually don't get shell. I'm pretty good with it. So here we go. 3 and 4. And there we go, 4 eggs. And give my chocolate mixture and butter mixture a bit of a stir, so we don't want that to burn. Just want the butter to melt and get it all nice and creamy. And so this can be cooling while we're doing our other steps, because it does say to let it cool a little bit. There, oh, that was quick. Okay. So, and I'll show you what that looks like, all melted. And we got, let's see, there you go, nice chocolate gooey. We're going to set that aside to let it cool a little bit while we do our eggs. Get my whisk here. Got a new setup today. I'm doing it right on the kitchen counter instead of everything on the table. So any things are a little closer at hand and easier to mix. So there we go. I'm just whisking the eggs until they get lemon colored, which is, you know, creamy yellow, until they're, you don't want any, you want nice ribbons. You want just a, you don't want any globs. That's a glob. So you keep whisking until when you hold your whisk up, it comes out straight and nice like that. No slimy globs with the egg whites. That means the egg white haven't mixed in yet. There we go. Look at that. Perfect. See? It just pours right off the whisk. There we go. Put that right in the sink, which is handier at the kitchen counter because it can go. It can fit right in the sink. My sink is close to my counter here. Okay, so with the eggs, add sugar and beat well with a wooden spoon. So now I'm going to put in 2 cups. This is a big recipe. This is going to make a big tray of brownies. So we're going to take 2 cups of sugar. There we go. Half, 1, 1.5, and 2. Now we take the wooden spoon and we mix the sugar in until it's all nice and mixed in, nice and creamy. See how these are easy recipes, and my mom is the same way. She only uses recipes that are easy to make and do not cost a lot. If you stock your pantry, your baking pantry, with the basics: flour, sugar, vanilla, cocoa, some spices. If you're going to make molasses cookies, you want molasses and you want ginger, you want those kind of things, salt, that kind of stuff. If you keep that stocked in your pantry, then you can make pretty much anything you come across. So now we're going to add 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. So one whole capful and a half a capful. There we go. We're going to mix in the vanilla. And one video I'll take it, clean out my pantry, and then I will show you what you need for basically every recipe you can think of. So now, after we mix that in, add sugar to eggs. Okay, let's see, whisk, add sugar. Now we got the vanilla. Now we have to stir in the chocolate and melted butter and the melted chocolate mixture. So that goes in. That is what we melted on our stove. So if this was a bar of chocolate, I probably would have used a double boiler, which is a pan of boiling water and then a little pan on top of that to set the chocolate in, because it melts evenly and it doesn't burn. But because I did it with the cocoa, it was okay to do it this way. So now we're going to mix in the sugar mixture with our chocolate mixture. There we go. Now we have to gradually stir in the flour. So now we're going to take 1 cup of flour. My half a cup measuring cup here with my tall measuring containers. There's half a cup, My big cup won't fit in there, so we do half a cup at a time, which is okay. Half a cup of flour. And we're going to stir that in. You can add walnuts to these. I do have walnuts, so I might grab a couple and crack some and put them in. I should have thought I got those ahead of time, but I hadn't planned on making brownies. This was looking through my recipe box thinking, oh, what do I want to make today? It's a dreary, rainy Monday here in Canada, in Ontario, and it's a good day to stay inside and bake. You can't get out. You want to clean up your flower beds, and today's not the day because it's too yucky and wet and muddy out there. It's been raining for the last week off and on. So there is your beautiful creamy chocolate brownie mix. I hope everybody can see that good enough. So now there's our timer, and I will show you our cream cheese cookies. Oh, they're absolutely perfect. Let me move this out of our way for just a second. And here is our cream cheese cookies. They're nice and soft, pillowy. Break open, look at that. Beautiful inside. Just golden brown on the bottom. That's exactly what you're looking for. And there you go. And they've got like a nice creamy, sweet almost taste to it. So now, let's get back to our brownies. We've added the flour, and that's all there is to it. We're going to put it in our baking pan. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm not going to mix walnuts in, but I'm going to go ahead and grab a couple, and I'm going to show you a trick my grandmother used to do when she baked brownies. She did incorporate walnuts throughout the batter as well, but what she did that I liked is she would crack walnuts or buy them from the store already cracked. We got lucky because there's a tree out in our backyard that it's an English walnut tree, and we can just go ahead and get fresh walnuts. There we go. So that is our brownie mixture. I'm going to, excuse me for 1 minute, I'm going to get the walnut. And I'll get my nutcracker here out of the drawer. I hadn't thought about this ahead of time. I would have had it prepared. So what my grandmother used to do is she used to take the walnuts. I'm pretty sure she bought hers. I remember going to her house in summer and staying with her, but I'm pretty sure we bought walnuts when we went grocery shopping. They had a farm, but they did not have a walnut tree. So what she used to do is she'd crack the walnut, there's a little piece right there, and she would place it right on top of the brownie mixture and space it. So every square of brownie you got a piece of a walnut. You can crack a whole bunch, kind of roughly chop them and add them to your batter. I do that occasionally. But when I was looking through the recipe books, like I said, I just totally didn't even think about using walnuts. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put them on top this time. And this is pretty quick and easy. It's just, time consuming. You can go to places like Bulk Barn. That would be your best bet. You can buy walnuts. I mean, you can obviously get them from your grocery store, but they're a little more expensive. I know that we have Dollarama in Canada, in Ontario, and they have bags of walnuts for $2. They're small bags, but you still get a fair amount. And you can go to your grocery store. Bulk Barn by far is the best place to go for something like this because it's less expensive, and you get quite a bit. It's by the pound, but I mean, when you crack walnuts, after they're out of the shell, they're very, very light. And this one's being stubborn, it's not coming out. So it's going to crack it on the side here. There we go. Get rid of some more of that shell. And now I'm going to get these in the oven. Okay, sorry for that interruption there. I had a phone call. So there's our brownie mix with the walnuts on top of it. I added a few more. My grandmother used to put one each spot just so you can get a walnut with each bite you take. So that's all we have for today. Have a good day and welcome to Grandma's Kitchen. Be sure to like and subscribe. Bye-bye.